welcome to episode 3 of Mortal Limits. It was a wild 2 sessions, lots of things, so I'm just make this short and sweet. After having to caption the intro and outro of last episode, I wanted to actually bang my head against the wall, so not doing that again. That fucking sucked. Instead, you just get me and my terrible webcam. Lots of goodies in this video, lots of pictures. I'll include as many pictures as I can in the description below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the story so far. Session 5 was pretty short, gonna be honest. Mostly because Timo wasn't here this session again. I forget why. I think it might have been because it might have been the fact that they celebrated Easter on a different day or something like that. I forget why. Timo wasn't here. And so we had a shorter session. But that was okay. Because we got to most of the session that we actually did was building the island. Because Jamie had promised us that he could, they could make a map for us and everything like that. But we wanted to, but they also gave us the option of being able to make the us have options in making the map, and so we're yes, and so we did, this really cool thing that Jamie set up where we got these hex tiles. So all this stuff in Kingmaker is done through hexes. So that's how you, it's kind of it's straight up like a civilization game where you have these hexes and stuff like that. And so we were able to place hexes on our map about and we could build the shape of our island. We can build what resources we wanted where. We wanted a volcano on our island because we could, and so we made a volcano on our island because we could. And so we got to build out the island and build out the hexes and stuff on the island, which was awesome. I'll put a picture of it here. It was so much fun to make. It took a while though, because what we did was Rob, me, and Blake went one at a time, placing one tile at a time. And it was a lot of fun though. So some of the tiles represent farmland, some of the tiles represent grass. It's pretty obvious which ones represent the volcanoes and stuff like that. Then we have tiles that are magic forest. We have tiles of healing herb forest. We have honestly, we have a lot of tiles of just drugs. And drugs, not medicinal drugs. Drugs in drugs. I don't advocate for the use of drugs, but I am saying that we have a lot of them on our island. Partially my fault though. I don't want to say it's my fault though. And so we got to make it. It was so cool. But this took up the majority of the session is of us building this map and stuff like that. And then this didn't happen this session, but this happened recently. Our friend, so Jamie gave this map to our friend Quinn, who you may know from Pen and Quinn, one of my editors, and she made this awesome map. Look at this map of this island. A map currently being shown on screen, most likely. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. Sadly, we can't actually use it during play, mostly because we need the hexes in order for us to do our Pathfinder Kingmaker stuff. But it is very pretty, and I very much like looking at it. So, you know what? I'll fucking take it. It's gorgeous. After we did finish building the island, though, we did do a little bit of RP. And the main thing was, 3 things happened. So one, we were given the island, Caller, reluctantly gave us Skyland. I say reluctantly, mostly toward he and Kai getting the island. He put us all in charge of it, because he's you guys have obviously proven yourself. Kia and Kai also explained to Jan and to Skyfrog, but mostly Jan, why they were weird. Essentially, they explained the fact that they are reborn souls, and that Kai has all these memories of their past lives and stuff like that they're connected, that Kai doesn't feel emotions, that Kia feels all of it, that they would rather have this, and they like kind of finish this like discussion about like, yeah, we were alive during the empowering, we know all this stuff about the empowering, I was an engineer on this really important project during the empowering, yeah, that's we trust you guys though. We fought together side by side. You saved our lives multiple times. You just saved my sister's life. I trust you. Just if you do anything, and I mean anything, to put myself or my sister in harm's way, I will kill you. And Jan laughed. Which was like fair. Like Kai, like Jan was like Kai was like, I will kill you. And Jan was like, yeah, right, motherfucker. You can try. And Kai's like, you don't understand. I will murder you. I will skin you alive. I will do a torturous deed to you. You will never see the light of day again. And Jan's just like, I can crush your head right now. Shut the fuck up. And it was like a very jokey moment. Cause Kai was like serious and Jan was like, nah, bro. Don't stop joking around. But who knows what that's gonna lead. That definitely won't lead to a spiteful prank roar on Kai's part. It probably won't. Probably. Anyway, the last eventful thing that happened that night was Jan got a dream. And I'm gonna read this word for word for what I wrote down. Because I don't know the actual implications of this dream. I have my own thoughts about the implications of this dream, but we'll see. Jan has a dream that night. He's fighting the angel one-on-one, just laying into it while raging. And as the fight goes on, it grows larger and larger. But Jan still keeps fighting, even though his attacks have become less effective. And the angel looks down at him and says, "Look at this failure. You're not even worth killing." Then walks away. And Jan tries to strike the angel down, but he's flooded with memories. And the dragon hook strikes the angel dead, and he's not alone anymore. He's in a stadium, surrounded by everyone he's ever met. And they're all cheering at him. The angel is now a lizard folk, and he is now a child. Kai and Kia are jeering at him. Sky Frog is there jeering at him. And Jan begins crying and wakes up in the same room that he was before. And in that room is the prisoner, because Jan was chilling with the prisoner to make sure he didn't escape. And Jan essentially says, "Look, you're not gonna tell anyone that I fucking cried right now. And if you don't, I'll let you have a place in this town, this new country, as long as you also promise to abandon the Dark Wolves." And the guy was like, "Yep, for sure. I got you, bro. We'll 100% take that deal." And that's kind of how the session ended. I have many thoughts mixed with the well, you'll see what happens in session 6, but I have many thoughts about like what happened in Jan's past and like some themes of Jan and stuff like that about like, well, you'll see what I mean. A slight tangent in the middle of this little adventure, some corrections. As I was filming this, I have received corrections from my DM about some of the things of which I've talked about today and in previous sessions and stuff like that. So, yeah, we're just gonna go down through the list of them. So, alright. So, so the whole thing about the Dark Wolves, about their, like, in the royal family not believing in espionage. So, the royal family doesn't publicly believe in espionage against non-humans. But they totally think it's actually necessary because, they want to, subjugate them, so they need to have knowledge about them. They just don't like to admit that to their citizens, that they need to like resort to espionage on non-humans, because that would like suggest that non-humans were like people or something. All right, we're back. Yeah, so they don't want to admit that. So they just don't publicly admit that. The clones, which are in a very important part, they become a very important part. So it's a modified version of the clone spell, which is like, it makes the body melt. And both clone and the modifying clone are rituals, which rituals are very different in Pathfinder than they are in D&D. They mean two different things, which we'll eventually get to when we do a ritual, probably. So the papers that Lily had, third errata, the papers that Lily had were like love poems and like selfies and stuff, and not a form of romantic entanglement. I would argue that love poems and selfies on dates were a form of romantic entanglement. Just, it's a lot colder way to say romantic entanglement. I get really into Kai. Anyway, then next one is about Phoenix Dust. There's a lot about Phoenix Dust here. So Phoenix Dust is not used by people with magic. It's used by people without magic to give them powers which are basically sorcery. It also is an enhancer on people that are already trained with magic. Its effects as an enhancer on people that are already trained with magic is minimal unless they use it as a material component for a spell, which is why Skyfrog is interested in it. Using it as a spell component uses up a dose and boosts the spell level by 1 up to level 3. And it changes the spell to like fire damage and stuff. And including all the damage changes to fire damage. Geico didn't say anything in its mind to Kia. It just felt drawn to Skyfrog, and Kia was like, "You should check out this gecko, Skyfrog." And it wasn't awoken before the little spark magic when Skyfrog touched it. And then I'm also supposed to note, it's important to note that Skyfrog just yeeted himself off the cliff when you got back, instead of climbing down. A very important detail, which is true, actually. When we arrived back on the ship, to the ship, instead of climbing down like the rest of us had to, Skyfrog just fucking Assassin's Creed leap of faith over the edge and was like floated down. It was weird, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, and then the other errata, I haven't gone to those parts yet, so it's okay. I can just talk about the changes when they come. Yay! But yeah, those are the corrections. But on to session 6. Alright, okay, so next up will probably be the most difficult part about this episode, and I'm trying to make this quicker because this episode is probably going to be really long anyway. But I can't get around this. I have to explain how kingdom turns work, at least vaguely, in order for like any of this to make sense. And I'm doing this with the caveat that I don't know kingdom turns very well. We've done like 4 of them, I think 3 of them so far, and we're all kind of just like struggling through it a little bit because they're a little bit hard. There's a lot of things you have to keep track of and a lot of different things you can do, and so that can be a little hard, and like our resources are very scattered all over the place, so it's very difficult and very time consuming to do a kingdom turn. But I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. So essentially, our kingdom has, just like players, our kingdom has stats, and these different stats translate to different skills. It has the same progression as like a player character. Our kingdom has a level. The proficiency bonus thing works the same. And being trained in different skills allow us to do different actions and stuff like that. So there's a turn order. So there's like 15 steps in a turn, and like each of those steps, the steps are kind of categorized into different groups, which I won't really get into because we kind of just view it as different steps. But I'll go one by one. So step 1, assign leadership roles. So in a nation, there are, I think, like 6 or 7 different roles. And you need to have those roles filled, otherwise bad things happen. You take penalties to certain checks, maybe to all checks, depending on what role is unfilled. So you really need these roles to be filled in order for your kingdom to be successful. As a modification to the system, we decided double check this. We decided that our kingdom government is going to be like an oligarchy, but like a council. Like we're a council. So the closest thing that we kind of came to was an oligarchy. So these leadership, because we're like doing a council and stuff like that, we decided that we didn't want a ruler, which is like the most important role in your kingdom. But Jamie, our DM, was like, nah, it's fine if you guys don't do a ruler because you all have like equal say and stuff like that. And so we're like, cool, that's awesome, love that. And so like, yeah, so we don't have a ruler. But we do have all the other leaders, and I'll list them. So we have a counselor, general, emissary, magister, treasurer, viceroy, and warden. So, it started out, our counselor is, so each one of these does different things. Like, the counselor is in charge of, communicating with the public. Our general is in charge of, our army during wartime and stuff. Our emissary is like our spy master, essentially. Magister is in charge of like education and knowledge and magical things that go on in the kingdom. The treasurer, money. The viceroy is in charge of like industry and development and making sure that our kingdom is growing right. And then the warden is in charge of like patrolling the nation, making sure that things are okay within its borders, being the police force, stuff like that. And so we started out our nation. Each one of us took 1 or 2 roles in order to like fulfill things, because we just didn't have enough NPCs to fill those roles. So it started out with the counselor was Kia, the general was Jan, Kia was also the emissary, Skyfrog was the magister, Kai was the treasurer, Kai is also the viceroy, and Jan at the time, though this has changed recently, it was the warden. So the first step of your turn is to assign or change characters in leadership roles. So if you have any unassigned roles, you incur vacancy penalties. But you can, at the beginning of your turn, of your kingdom turn, you can appoint as many leaders as you want. Though you do have to make a check. You have to like make a check to assign them smoothly. Stuff like that. You see what I mean? By it's complicated. There's a lot to read. So the next thing is the next step on the turn is you have to adjust your unrest. So your unrest is like how, like, both like how loyal your people are and how like comfortable your people are within your nation. So your unrest starts at 0, and then when bad things happen, your unrest increases. So when your kingdom's unrest is 20 or higher, the entire nation falls into anarchy. While in anarchy, you can only attempt to quell unrest activities, and all kingdom checks are worsened by 1 degree. So, not great, guys. You also, like, when your unrest is high, you gain ruins, which are a sign of, like, so you have 4 major stats. You have culture, economy, loyalty, stability, and then you have like unrest, the ruin stats for each one of those, which are like, as those increase, bad things happen in those areas. Like crime will increase, or food will be scarce, or there'll be more spies among you, stuff like that. Step 3 on the turn is you have to roll for resources. So we're changing this a little bit, and I'm not really quite sure. I think it's unbalanced the way. I think it's like totally unbalanced the way we're doing it, but like it's the way we're doing it. So at the beginning of your turn, you roll your resource dice. So you gain resource dice from the level of your kingdom. You also gain resource die from like improvements to your kingdom. So when you build certain structures and you get certain things, or if you complete events, you get extra resource dice. And this resource dice gives you what's called RP, resource points. And so at the beginning of every turn, you're supposed to roll for the number of resource points you have. And those resource points are used then to, you spend them to do certain activities. So like certain activities require you to spend resource points and then roll to be able to attempt it. Some events are like you can just spend resource points to resolve those events. So resource points are supposed to be like this very like important factor, but like the way we're playing it is like at the end of your turn they're supposed to just like disappear, and then you start with a new set of resource points the next turn. What we're doing is that our resource points carry over from turn to turn, and I'm not quite sure about if that balances particularly well. It's been very beneficial for us, especially as a new nation. I don't know how, like right now we have like 45 RP. That's like crazy. That's a crazy amount of RP. Because like what's supposed to happen is if you have any RP at the end of your turn, it's supposed to translate to experience points for your kingdom. But we're doing milestone leveling, so like Jamie's like just keep your RP, because there's no point in not spending it. You also gain commodities at this step, which are like, they're like things that you need. So like food, lumber, luxuries, stuff like that, like that are important, that you need to spend in order to build things. Like I said, we're playing Civilization and Pathfinder, guys. Step 4. Huh. Step 4, pay consumption. So, all of your settlements and all of your armies require resources and provisions and supplies and food and stuff to be able to live. So at the start of your turn, so on your first turn, your consumption's 0. You don't have anybody. But every other turn, your consumption is this, it's like, you have to calculate your consumption score. So it's the total of the settlement's consumption scores plus your army's consumption score minus the number of farmland hexes you have within influence plus any modifiers from kingdom events. So essentially, you total up what everybody wants to eat and you subtract what you have available to eat. And if you're negative, things are bad. If you can't or choose not to spend this commodity cost, you can either spend 5 RP point per unpaid consumption or increase unrest by 1d4. So like you can starve your kingdom, but like bad things happen. Remember the whole you get to 20 unrest and then anarchy happens in your kingdom? Whoopsie doopsie. Step 5, you collect your taxes. So you don't actually have to do this. We actually haven't collected taxes yet in our kingdom. But essentially, if you succeed on this, you can gain bonuses to economy-based checks. You don't actually gain money or anything like that. You just gain bonuses to checks, which is what a lot of this, like, the next few things are about. They're about gaining bonuses to different kinds of checks. So like, yeah, collect taxes, all about collecting, about improving your economy checks. Approve expenses is all about, there are 2 activities you can do in approve expenses. You can either approve your lifestyle activity, or you can attempt a withdrawal from the kingdom's funds using the tap treasury action. So improve lifestyle, you enhance the quality of life, so you get bonuses to your culture checks. Your tap treasury, you can gain this is the one where you can actually just get money. But only if you critically succeed. Yeah, so like tap treasury is like, it's like you can pull funds from your kingdom to actually just like fund your PC's adventures and stuff like that, or emergency funding for an event. It's not, as far as I'm aware, we're probably not going to use it super often, but like who knows. So like a lot of this stuff can be skipped over if you don't want to do it. So if you don't want bonuses to your economy checks, don't collect taxes. If you don't want bonuses to your culture checks, don't improve lifestyle. If you don't have an emergency that you need it for, or an adventure to go on, don't tap your treasury. So a lot of this stuff can be skipped over. 7 is tap commodities, so you can trade commodities. So essentially you can like you can like trade with groups that you have diplomatic relations with to gain bonus resource dice for next turn. Yeah. So you can get, so like that's a way for getting resource points later on. Like if you want it next, if you need resource points next turn, you would trade commodities. Managed trade agreements, you can get commodities during this, or you can get resource dice. Fun stuff. But we finally head into the interesting and probably the longest section of the turn, the activities portion. So we have leadership activities, followed by region activities, followed by civic activities. So leadership activities, I will not go through every single option you have here because they are long and there are a lot of them. But essentially, each PC so each player in a leadership role may attempt up to 2 activities. No more than 2 leadership activities during this step. And if you have a castle, palace, or town hall, you may attempt up to 3 activities. So the party can choose the order in which you go when you take leadership activities, and a leader cannot attempt the same activity more than once per kingdom turn. So since there's 4 of us, we can attempt up to 8 activities a turn. Like if I wanted to do something, like I have 2 things that I want to do, and Blake has 2 things he wants to do, and Rob, and like we go in whatever order we want. And this takes forever because we sit there and we like read through a list of things to be like, what do we do? Followed by region activities. So leadership activities mostly affect like our people and stuff like that, and like our stats. Region activities truly affect like our country as a whole. So we expand hex, so we claim hexes and we can expand our country, or we can like build farms, or we can build quarries, or we can like explore things. There's a lot of things we do. Leadership activities deal more with people. Region activities deal more with the geography of your nation and the actual resource allocation of your nation. And then followed by civic activities. This one is rough because you can only attempt, so region activities, you can attempt up to 3 region activities a turn. Leadership activities, it's 2 activities per player. Civic activities, it's 1 activity for each of your settlements, which is rough. But I understand why, because essentially your civic activities is stuff like you clear debris and you prepare new land for a building, or you build the building. You spend resources, you spend commodities and RP and stuff like that, and you build a building of which your country is able to. Then it's the exciting and also the longer portion. Like, the activities portion is definitely really long, but Jamie's done a lot of the next section, which is the event section. So you check for random events. So Jamie has us roll for random events, which we have yet to roll a random event. But Jamie also has story events that happen. So like things will happen in like we will go out of the kingdom turn thing, and we'll deal with like the narrative, the plot, and stuff like that during this portion of the turn. We resolve that event. We don't do XP, and we don't increase our level until Jamie says we increase our level. So that is I doubt it's quick. Oh, yep, it's been 17 minutes. It wasn't quick, but that was a rundown of what a kingdom turn looks like, which you can see why we haven't gotten through many of them yet. So yeah, and we're still learning it, so I might go more in depth in another video about the different things you can do and all that kind of stuff, but yeah. So our first turn, session 6, we start with turn 1. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We were so confused. And so we were like, what do we do? What do we do? We're like, I guess we need a leadership activity. I guess let's create a masterpiece, because that's obviously the first thing you do when you build a new nation. And we roll a nat 20. I am not joking about this, which was fucking epic. And so we narratively say that we like create a flag for a new nation, which is our masterpiece, which... here are we've been talking about what flags to have as our thing. So if we haven't decided, you'll see the options of flags that we have for our masterpiece. If not, you'll just see the flag we've chosen as our masterpiece. But thoughts on our masterpiece down below. It is a masterpiece, so remember your thoughts can only be good. No slander. But we also like demolish some of the old town to get some like old world scraps for me, because I can build old world technology, because Kai used to be an engineer. And then we have our the end of our turn. Our ship had left at the beginning of our turn, so essentially it was like they got fixed up and stuff like that, and they left. And at the end of our turn, they came back. And so now we have lots of food and people and RP to spend things on, so which is really, really cool. Also, as a side note, I don't know if I'm gonna mention this later, but the angel, remember the angel we fought a while ago? Yeah. When we went back to go check on the angel's body not there. Nothing there. There's no sign of the angel whatsoever. It just fucking disappeared. And we checked the day after we had that battle. If you're concerned, I'm concerned, guys. I'm concerned. So then we had some events. Okay. So this is very important. So this is another dream. Jamie loves dreams, and I love that. So once more, this is Skyfrog's dream. So I'm going to read from what Skyfrog's dream looks like. And you'll see why it was fucking wild over here at this. Alright, so I just had some fucking wild technical issues. So like my iPhone ran out of storage space, and so it just stopped recording my video. Luckily, I noticed it within like 2 minutes, but I have to go back and re-record those things. And also then like my Audacity just stopped working, and it's rough. And I have to leave in a half hour for my business course. So we're gonna go through this as fast as we can, because I do not have the patience anymore. And there's a lot to get through. Yeah, in session 6. Okay, so Skyfrog has a dream. I'm just going to read from here. Skyfrog has a dream or a memory. He's in a palace, absolutely exquisite. And he's talking to someone he trusts with his life. Maybe the only person he trusts with his life. But he can't remember their face. They ask Skyfrog to do another task, and they say, "No more sinner, nor one of their pets, but an infant. I know it's unusual for me not to ask you to kill them, but they have not sinned, and I task you to do whatever you need to prevent them from becoming a sinner." And she waves her hand, and a portal appears. And he goes through it, and he appears falling over a very familiar volcano. And he sees a bunch of cities and structures, and then he sees the portal above him get distorted. And another portal appears. It causes the palace, like part of the palace, to fall through the first portal. And an angel appears from that second portal, and elf-like, with a symbol of a tree on their forehead. A very familiar symbol. Skyfrog realizes the palace is going to crush him. And it almost does, but an artifact around Skyfrog's neck begins to glow, and a bubble begins to emerge around Skyfrog. The angel, seeing Skyfrog, seeing this bubble, tries their best to get into the bubble, but it forces the angel out, shooting it in the opposite direction, all the way at the base of the volcano. But that interfered with the way the artifact worked. And the artifact begins to malfunction. And it begins throwing Skyfrog around, and Skyfrog hits his head as the artifact teleports him. Teleports him through space, and teleports him through time, until he reappears, falling down below to a dwarven city. Very familiar, that they had just seen in the past few weeks. That's the angel we fought, and also the dwarven city that we're from. And Skyfrog's from the empowering era, just like Kai and Kia. Things are wild. So that was like the first event. The second event took much longer. So the event that happened was a rock storm happened, and so like we heard rumors that like somebody crashed into a cove, and so we go to investigate it, and we realize that guess what, it's our best friends, the Dark Wolves. Yay! But this time they're slavers. No. And so it's not cool, and so we're like, we don't like you, and we also don't like the enslavement of any species and or race, so we're gonna fuck them up. And so usually, like, Kai remembers that, like, usually these vessels either try to capture, like, one specific person, or like, a group of non-humans to use them as, like, workers. And so, like, on top of the deck, we're spying on this place. We see from a distance, a lizard folk man in a cage. And that's like naked, like butt naked, just in this cage, like nothing on them. And so we decide to like ambush them. And honestly, the ambush went really well, except for, of course, within the first turn, Kai, or like within like the first or second turn, something like that, I decided to like go into this tent by myself, because like the caster dude was in there, and we're like, we need to take out this caster as fast as we can, because this caster is gonna be a problem. The caster was the problem. Kai crit this guy, did like 30 points of damage. The guy is still alive. Crit this guy with the gun, by the way. We're still running off of the crit, the insta hit crit from the gun from the first encounter. So the gun is the go-to method for Kai. But so Kai does 30 points of damage, critical hits this leader, does not go down. The caster dude then critically hits Kai with the spell, and then Kai goes down instead. Because Kai only has 32 hit points. So he ges knocked down, but no worries. Kia's right there and gets him back up. And, overall, we beat them up pretty bad. We beat them up. It was an exciting fight. That was the worst part of it. There was also a whole thing about the tent got caught on fire. Kai was on fire for a bit. Then the tent was on fire on Jan, because Jan ran through the tent. And then they threw the tent onto another guy, and that guy burned to death. It was pretty horrific, gonna be honest. So then we go to the ship, and we start like freeing these people. And Kai goes up to the lizard folk, because Jan just like did not go by this lizard folk. This lizard folk like seemed to recognize Jan. But Jan was like, I'm not dealing with this. And so we start unlocking the people, and the lizard folk dude starts calling Jan a coward in his native tongue. One, the audacity of this bitch, and two, big words from someone locked in a fucking cage, bro. Like, the man just saved you, and you're calling him a coward? Bitch. Be a little bit grateful. Thank you. thank you for saving my life. Thank you for freeing me. You coward. I feel like, there's a little bit of a, that was a dick move, my guy. And so, Kai goes up to talk to him. None of us speak lizard folk. I think Kia now speaks it. I don't know if she spoke it then, though. But he calls himself Thule. Hold on. He calls himself, Thule who hunts. Thule who hunts. And he was hunting Jan because, reasons? They were kind of, like, he vaguely mentioned that, like, that was his purpose. Hunting Jan was his purpose. And he only referred to Jan as the coward. And, like, that his full name was Jan the Coward. And that name was given to him by the elders of their tribe. And, like, he never really he's, like, when Kai, like, tried to, like, press for, like, why are you after Jan? He's like, well, he is the coward. He's the one to be hunted. So we're still kind of in the dark about that. But essentially he explains that, like, he was at this, like, farming village where the humans, like, ambushed him and then, like, threw all his weapons away and all his things away and, like, overboard the ship. And so he's been stuck in this cage. And so Kai essentially tells him, look, you don't respect Jan, you will not be tolerated on this island. So you either respect Jan and you call Jan by the name he wants to be called, which is Jan, which is how he introduces himself to everybody, or you fucking get out of here. And Thule says, as a boon, he's gonna stop hunting Jan, but he's not gonna respect him. And he straight up walks away, buck naked, into the woods. Just walks into the woods and leaves. So now I guess we got a boogeyman, a lizard man in the woods. I'm not really sure. He's trying to get off the island very badly. I know that. But yeah. So now like, we finish the event, we go back. So now, the end of every turn, we get to spend downtime activities. So essentially, each turn, a single turn, is 1 month of time that passes. And so we say that, like, we spend 1 week doing any, like, necessary leadership activities, and then you get 3 weeks of downtime. So if there's anything your characters personally want to do, you can go do them. So, I have a vague list of what downtime activities everybody took. So part of these downtime activities is Kai writes letters to people, which I have written out letters, and I will read them one day maybe. But essentially, like, Kai talks to people on different things, and tries to get in touch with people. So what Kai does during his downtime is he tries to, like, go back. He tries to, like, meditate on his memories to try to see if he can remember the hooded figure. Be like, who is the fuck is this hooded figure? Am I just, like, not remembering them? He doesn't recover any memories. What he does recover is he gets another old world recipe, because one of the feats that he took was essentially magical crafting, except old world crafting. So now you can make, like, old world technologies and stuff. But he spends, like, another week doing this, like, meditation and stuff, and he realizes that every time he tries to remember this person, they, like, distort and disappear. And so Kai is kind of led to the conclusion and believes that, like, his memories have been altered by somebody, and he thinks that, like, something happened either now in this life or in that first life to alter his memories, or maybe one of his previous lives. So Skyfrog on his down activity did obviously the most useful thing, which is reverse engineered Phoenix dust. That won't bite us in the ass. It takes him a few tries, gonna be honest. But he did it. And that's kind of, like, how he spent his downtime that turn. Kia, tries to, like, recreate a painting that she remembers from her memories. And all she remembers, as she's painting it, she's like, memories of a man chasing her with a symbol burning emblazoned on her forehead. Scary. She tries it again, and it does work, and she makes a painting worth 30 gold pieces. Exciting. And then she spends another week painting, and she gets a flashback from their first life of her twin sister, Iris, coming home and making sure that Lily is fed. Lily was Kia in her first life. So, very cute. The last one is Jan spends most of his time, pretty much scouts a bunch of hexes out for all of us. He goes on this like long journey and stuff to like scout out places, and he gets a bunch of crafting materials. He gets magical crafting materials and alchemical crafting materials, and he's super successful. So turn 2 is pretty short. I'm just gonna quickly go through it. So essentially, we established a trade agreement. Remember, with Merchant. Yep, Merchant's here to stay, guys. So we claim 2 new hexes, which I'm pretty sure we found out later we weren't allowed to do. Whoopsie doopsie. But we did it anyway. And then we got to establish a farm and a work site for free because of our, essentially each one of us brought in different resources and stuff like that. And some of the resources were, we had free labor that Kia and Kai brought in. They like got people to help them and stuff. The event of that turn was Kai had a nightmare, but not a familiar nightmare. It's wrong. It's the same nightmare as before, but it's just all wrong. All the faces are distorted. Every single face is the face of the angel that they fought a few weeks ago. And the angel said, "Why is it you I wanted to feed? Why am I in your mind?" And he wakes up, and he checks in with Kia, and he shares this weird dream that they had, and she tries to connect their minds together, and an entity tries to come from Kai's mind into her mind, and so they shut it off. And that's how we ended session 6. There's just an angel in Kai's head now. How did it get there? Kai didn't do any wisdom saving throws. You know who did do wisdom saving throws? A random wisdom saving throw in the middle of the session? Kia. Yeah, Jamie was just like, during the downtime activities, he was like, "Hey, Kia, can you make me a wisdom saving throw?" Or not wisdom save, a will save. Okay. She rolled really low. Yeah. You know, guess who? Guess who? Has an angel in their head now. Kai. Why is Kai the one with the angel in the head? Why is this angel still alive? Burning questions. Some of which will be answered next time. When I talk about session 7. But I actually have to get to class. So, leave your thoughts down below. We're almost caught up. We're about a session away from being caught up. So, very, very exciting. I can soon get into my conspiracy theories. And I can soon get into actually, like, explaining rules and explaining things and going in depth into what we did each session. So, yeah, leave comments down below. What do you think's happening? You know, what's the angel doing in Kai's head? How did it get there? Who knows? Anyway, peace out, have fun, live life. Don't do drugs. Don't be like Skyfrog and reverse engineer drugs. Probably not the best idea. So yeah. Peace.